You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody and welcome to an impromptu edition of the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darrow O'Connor and I did not expect to do a show tonight. I'll be honest. We gave ourselves the night off. We're gonna watch SummerSlam next week. We're not gonna do WCW stuff. I've already done a show with James, and then I get a message, holy you know what, from Dave Stevens, and then I'm like, I check Facebook and Twitter, and then Martin's like, oh my god, it's a pity we're not doing a show. I'm like, well, I guess we have to now. But folks, this is a reaction show to the biggest news in wrestling history, legitimately. So if you're in the chat, we can see your messages. Please do comment whatever you think, because this is one of those moments in history that will live forever. Particularly if you're a wrestling fan. I mean, even if you're not, everyone's heard this name. But I'm not alone. I'm joined by the one, the only, the one and all, undisputed, undefeated, Mr. Martin Hardy. How thanks, Martin?
Dara, how's things? I'm your man on the ground tonight outside Titan Towers here, where bedlam has broken out. Chairs are being fired out of windows, half the building's on fire. It's absolute insanity.
Martin, I think you've got stuck in a 90s VHS copy of
the opening segment.
The opening segment. We'll send somebody to come get you. But man,
don't. It was better back then.
It was, and it's funny. I was having a flame war with somebody about AEW, because I like to troll AEW fans, of course, when you're not there, Martin, because it's funny. And I was just like, man, I have no dog in this fight. I watch old WCW. I don't care about anything. But
I have no doubt that you have a dud account that you troll me on.
I might make a bot to do this.
Are you Jobber Nation or WWE Gareth?
WWE Superfan XOXO 96. No, I mean, I just think it's funny when people are like, oh, you love WWE. I'm like, no, I don't. Here's my podcast about how much I don't like WWE. But man, holy hell. So let's go back a bit. Let's do where we're going back and kind of give some context here, right? So obviously we did a show a couple of weeks ago. Again, if you're listening to us on Phoenix 92.5 FM, thank you so much. If this is your first show, please do like, subscribe, tell people about the podcast at WrestlingRewind.com. It's a fancy link tree. All the links are there. So there's no excuse now. You should be able to find us as well. And
I believe that show we did, Dara, it was also a breaking news.
Yes.
Basically happened just so. If you want your wrestling news, folks, it's the Wrestling Rewind. This is where we're live, pal.
And it's free as well, unless you want to give us money, which I'm okay with. Just saying.
Yeah, and if you do give us money, that is tax free.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
You can write that off.
So legitimately, a couple of weeks ago we did a show, the Wall Street Journal. It's weird that this is on a Friday. I'll explain why. So anyway, the Wall Street Journal news broke that Vince McMahon had alleged allegations. And then there were more allegations and more alleged allegations and all that kind of stuff. Then Vince took a step away from being the CEO, from being the chairperson. Stephanie comes back as the CEO chairperson. The Game came back today as head of talent relations, which is incredible. Again, did not see that happening. There were memes that he was looking for jobs in AEW. Which, I mean,
I think that's Road Dogg.
That's Talk now, yeah. I mean, I Triple H might bring the boys back. He might be like, lads, come on, we're hiring again. But I thought that was enough, and I was like, all right, sure, we'll talk about that next week. And then literally, it's 11 o'clock, 10 past 11 here in Ireland right now, and I thought that was it. I was like, right, there can't be any more news. 6 o'clock US time, this breaks. Now, normally these stories don't break on a Friday. Big news stories don't break on a Friday because people have time to think about it over the weekend. Usually it's a Monday or Tuesday. But no, Friday night. So SmackDown is live tonight.
Very strange. And a weird impromptu kind of tweet.
Yeah. I thought it was a meme.
So did I. Like whenever Dave put it in the chat for us, I thought it was, just one of those like memes that you missed out on. You're like, oh, I don't get that one.
Yeah. Actually, like having the bands, because our group chat is fire. Dave's back. He's going to be back soon. We're trying to get him back next week, but he's actually like, he's back on planet Earth. He must have been off in the realm of the Neververse to come back, but he has been responding to group chats now. But I was just like, oh, this is typical Dave, bringing the hot memes. It's like, no, it was real. I was like, oh my god, this is insane. And Dave's there having an existential crisis, saying, I need time to process this, and I'm like, but he did concede that my prediction that WWE was going to be sold was correct. I was just a year off, but I do think that's going to happen.
Well, while we're Mystic Macking it up, whenever the news came out yesterday that Triple H was put in as new head of talent, I'd responded that I bet you this is Vince putting loyal people in place before he steps down.
And you called it. You were spot on.
Call it. So there you go. That's what am I doing this podcast over a year now. I was right about Christian winning the Impact title. I was right about this.
I mean, look, the thing about it is...
two out of 365.
Well, to be fair, Martin, it's kind of hard to predict stuff that happened 20 years ago. I mean, we're at a distinct disadvantage there.
100% accuracy. 100%
accuracy. It's like when Marty McFly had that book, and then Biff Tannen ends up being a millionaire because he has the book. On a side note, never bet on wrestling. That's a bad idea.
I can't believe that it's actually available.
Thank you to Andrea who just subscribed to the channel. Appreciate it.
Hello, Andrea. It's lovely to have you. I can't believe that that's actually even doable. Like it's do bookies know the story with wrestling?
I mean, look, we're not going to give financial advice, but personally, don't. I wouldn't, because wrestling's not real. So I mean, but here's the thing: this kind of changes things, right? With WWE now, with Vince not being there, right? Stepping down completely, retiring again. I don't know how that's going to work. You're not going to stop Vince McMahon going into the building. Like it's not going to happen.
It's like Dave pointed out earlier. He remains the majority shareholder. Yeah.
So they do. He's just, he's set for life anyway. And I mean, he's 78,
77. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have that much long left, I wouldn't imagine. So I'm like,
I don't know. We were talking earlier before we came on live about Vince's ma, who lived to 136. Was it?
She wasn't running WWE, and I don't think she was doing. But
legal purposes.
Like I mean, I don't know. Vince is just one of those. So I'm not going to bury the lead here. Vince McMahon retires as WWE chief amid probes into sexual misconduct of pro wrestling. That's from
less than an hour ago.
Yeah, that's from CNBC. Vince McMahon to retire from WWE at 77 amid sexual misconduct scandal. That's from The Wrap. Market Watch, WWE CEO retires, and it's very, very, very weird to see real outlets talk about wrestling. And I don't mean that as a dig to anybody in the wrestling media, but you know what I mean, folks. This is Market Watch. This is CNBC. This
is Financial Times, Forbes.
It's serious. Like again, what I would love if this was an angle.
So. Do you remember Vince died and then he had to come back to life because of the whole Chris Benoit thing? Yeah. Bet you this is him bringing that storyline back. He's like, all right, pal, things with Benoit have settled down.
I wouldn't personally imagine, right? So this all kind of goes on, and then at the Royal Rumble, Vince McMahon enters at number 30. He's back!
Oh my God.
He's back! And
No.
Incredible.
Even better, he enters at number 31 because I make the rules.
Oh my God, dude. I mean, personally, I'd be okay with that.
Oh, it'd be the biggest trolling. Just, and I have my issues with Vince, but I would stand up and applaud that. But I don't think it's going to happen. See, one of the things that happened here was these allegations came out in 2 batches, and people were still discussing the first batch whenever the second one came out. So it's actually surprising. Like I'm only sort of gleaning this from, talking to people on Twitter and that. So it's by no means scientific, but it's kind of surprising how many people, like wrestling fans, people who are on wrestling Twitter, how many of them who aren't aware of the second set of allegations, which are the far more serious ones. So the first set of allegations, which came out about a month ago, were that he'd had this relationship with a staffer, that he'd like doubled her pay while they were in the relationship, that he'd passed her around like a toy to John Laurinaitis, and but everything was consensual. So they kind of didn't look great, didn't look like a good business environment, but nothing really bad happened. And people were still talking about them when the second set of allegations came out, which was a number of people, including wrestlers, former wrestlers, who had said that sort of contracts were held over them, or contract renewals like that would be denied unless they would give Vince what in the nicer parts of Dublin would be called a gobble. And that's had ventured more then into the realms of very much non-consensual. So that's a far, far more serious allegation than the previous ones.
Yeah, like the first one, to be fair, wasn't great, but it was, it was mainly coming at misappropriation of funds, allegedly. This one, the latest one, again, as you said, it was non-consensual. It was much more predatory.
Yeah.
And again, you asked me if this was the start of it, or is this the end of it? I don't think so. I think there's a lot more coming. Vince posted at 77, time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe. Stand now, forever together. Hashtag WWE. Hashtag thankful. Yeah.
I mean, like Vince retiring in a tweet a couple hours before SmackDown, a week before, their second biggest show of the year. If Vince McMahon was retiring, was choosing himself to retire, I don't think this is how we do it. This seems panicked, rushed, and either something has happened with the board, and that they were either going to vote him out, or something else is about to come out.
I think so.
Yeah. And now, so Triple H has been put in place as head of talent relations. No, not talent relations, as head of talent. Stephanie and Nick Khan are now joint CEOs. Nick Khan, in a couple of years, in a few years, I think this has been his plan all along. He has done the most tremendous job of inserting himself in what was, like, for decades, an absolute, like a family-run bit, like Vince's kingdom mainly. Inserted himself into it and got himself to the highest position of power, and now he's the bloody CEO.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is crazy. Like, it's crazy. WWE market capitalization of 4.9 billion. So the stock obviously hasn't taken a bit of a dip. That probably explains why this was announced on the markets were well closed. So
there you go. Yeah, that's a good.
So on Monday, stock's gonna take a dive, I think.
Yeah, and like if things calm down over the weekend, but that's actually a really good call. Maybe that's exactly why it.
I would say so. I mean, the markets are closed. Usually this comes out, news like this usually comes out to bury the lead on a Friday, or there's a reason for it, and I do think that is the reason. But yeah, man, I mean,
well, it's Sorry, go on ahead.
I was going to say, here's the question I have. Do they talk about this on TV?
I don't know how you can't. Although, if as we suspect, this is rushed and impromptu, I mean, what are they going to say? Because we all know WWE is very, very regulated in what they can and can't say on air. They don't like shooting, or they don't like sort of insider baseball talk on air. So without having had a script, maybe a video package made, or even just a thing sent around staff, although apparently there was a meeting about half an hour after the announcement. There was a meeting of all WWE staff where I assume they'll be given a list of what can and can't be said, that kind of thing on tonight's show. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's you know what? Again, it's another case of because of something Vince has done in real life. This would probably be one of the highest rated SmackDowns of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, if they don't talk about it, that's going to be weird. If they do talk about it, I mean, again, it could be a storyline.
I mean, what if Twitter was Vince announcing it to get, to generate buzz around it, and SmackDown, he's going to come out and speak?
I mean, it would be the most wrestling thing in the world. But here's the thing, right? So according to this, again, this isn't, Pro Wrestling Insider, WrestleView, Wrestle Talk. This is CNBC. Right?
Yeah.
Says here, on Friday, McMahon announced that Stephanie and WWE Nick Khan were taking over as co-CEOs. The daughter will become chairman of the company. McMahon will also have no longer have any role in creative. So he's done. Dead as a doornail in WWE.
But come here. Do you actually believe that? So
no, I don't.
Yeah, for me,
I'm going to go on record and say this is a storyline.
Oh no, I don't think it's a storyline. But so what I
they probably convinced me it was.
what I keep going back to is the steroid trial in the 90s. When Vince was convinced he was going to jail, he had set up, basically, he had people put in place who were just there to do whatever he said. So people would come and talk to him in prison, and they would relay what was to happen on the shows. And even though he was in prison, he would still be running the show. And in the weeks and days before this came out, we seen him reinstitute his daughter, who he had fired and humiliated, reinstitute his son-in-law, who he had not only fired and humiliated, but whose baby, NXT, he had taken out behind the shed and shot. So I think this is very much him putting people in place so that he'll continue to run it unofficially from the outside. Well, it's already having implications. So I know
before we went on air, you were talking about it. Twitter is on fire right now, and I mean, Twitter's always on fire about something. But now Brian Alvarez actually commented that Brock Lesnar isn't doing SummerSlam.
Exactly. Apparently, Brock Lesnar has told them, if Vince is gone, I'm gone. Yeah. And this is from all the. Twitter's full of accounts that claim to be wrestling news. There's a handful you can generally trust. Sort of Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, and those reliable ones are the ones who are saying Lesnar's gone. They're trying desperately to get him back for SummerSlam. He's saying he's gone. Sean Ross Sapp is saying at least one other major name has walked, and that there are major implications for Kevin Dunn. Which would mean if Kevin Dunn's gone, we might be about to see the first WWE show in 20 years that I can watch without getting motion sickness from camera cuts.
And you might actually... Well, I mean, here's the thing. I do genuinely think we're going to see a big change. We're going to see Creative is like this thing, and also during the week they announced they're going TV 14.
Well,
Which is another story, which is another massive story which we didn't talk about.
yeah. Well, so what happened there was an email from what's Raw on in the US? Is it on USA? So that was an email from USA, which they said wasn't right. That's something they're just discussing possibly for the future. So they're not going yet. But again, like that email being leaked a week before Vince McMahon steps down is, it's, you got to imagine there's some sort of link up there.
I believe so. I mean, it's incredible timing. It really is. It's like, we always knew WWE's been stuck in a holding pattern for about 15 years. Really 10 years. And it was always going to be something big to break it out of that. And this is it. I mean, the Attitude Era started because it had to.
Yeah.
Started, like this, the PG era or whatever ended because it had to. The Vince McMahon era has ended because it had to. It's very fitting. It really is.
The Vince McMahon era, absolutely agree. I'm not convinced that the PG era is over. I think that was an email that was leaked, but the fact that Nick Khan is now the co-CEO. Nick Khan's a money man. He's not a wrestling man. He doesn't care anything about the business. He's a businessman and a money man. And when he in his mind, when you go from TV PG, which is a product that can be marketed to everyone, when you move that to TV 14, all you're doing is cutting out a section of the audience. And since they've gone TV PG, as much as the likes of me and you may not like the product, they have been more profitable than at any point in their history. The golden era, the attitude era, at any point, they've been making far more money. So I genuinely don't see them leaving PG.
I do tend to think that we're going to see something changing a little bit different. I don't think it's going to be the same all the way through. Hey to Mikey Ogzong 316.
Hey Mikey.
He says we appreciate it. What do you think about the Vince McMahon news? Wild, right? I mean, look, will they move away from PG? I think there will be an edge now. I think we'll start to, like, the fact that Triple H is there, head of talent, also involved in creative again. I would imagine we'd probably start seeing WWE move towards something more like NXT.
Is this
NXT, actual proper NXT? Not,
Is this a pressure? Do you think from AEW, which, like we all know, has the slightly grittier, more mature product?
I mean, I think that, look, again, as I was trolling your man today, I was like, WWE doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to consider AEW a threat. It doesn't. I mean,
oh no,
it should. I mean, you can make more money. You're leaving money on the table, but it doesn't have to. No. It really doesn't.
WWE is unsinkable at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's it. Like,
you could put me in charge of WWE at this point, and I.
But WWE's a machine. I mean,
yeah.
We pay for the network and we just watch WCW. That's basically it, right? So,
I begrudgingly pay for the network because my old WCW VHSs, I don't have anything to bloody play them on.
That's it. I mean, and it exists basically as a monolith, as a repository for wrestling history, for better or worse. So that's what keeps us going. And I made a point 15 years ago now that WWE doesn't have to do another show ever again if it doesn't want to. It will still make money. However, as a product, and this is why, again, this goes back to what I was saying, and I do think if it is going to be sold, we might start seeing the moves now. Again, I don't think the people involved, the people who are running it now, Triple H, Stephanie, they will be kicked out. They won't be, because I mean, you want Triple H running it, you want Stephanie running it because he know the business. Vince wouldn't be willing to play ball with somebody else. He wouldn't be willing to let it go or have that. This is where, and again, I haven't been wrong. I've just been early, it seems, with my predictions. So I can see this, maybe not now, but in a little while, or you start seeing the origins of it. Disney could sweep in here, but or Paramount, because Paramount has the streaming service now. Paramount, whoever.
Yeah, Peacock. Sure, Peacock already half bought it. You know.
So I mean, they could actually swoop in and pick up the rest of it, and then be like, right, continue going as you're going, and then that's it.
Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think's going to happen?
What?
Tony Khan's going to buy it, and Monday night, Monday night is going to become Raw is Ring of Honor.
I mean, potentially could happen. This moves with Vince McMahon gone. This removes it needing to be the Vince McMahon show, because it's not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you will never again see storylines built around McMahon's. Stephanie's not there without Vince, so I mean, there's only so much that can go.
Yeah.
This fundamentally
I think
what WWE is. Fundamentally, forever. Sorry,
yeah, I think they're even aware that Stephanie is not liked as an on-screen character.
I mean,
you know.
Vince wasn't liked either.
Oh, but he was loved. Like, God, he had horrendous accusations leveled against him, and he walked out on TV like the next night, and they all chanted his name.
True, but that's respect for what he did. But I mean, that just sounds even worse. For the legacy he left behind in wrestling. But again, I mean, people who the whole thing of the accusations of, I'm like, that was the man's character for 20 years.
Well, there's a good question you've raised there, or a good subject you've raised there. Vince's legacy. Yeah. It's like let's just take it at face value. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the real story behind the scenes is. No. Let's take this at face value. Yeah. Vince McMahon is gone. Yeah. What's his legacy to you?
He's the man who created professional wrestling, as we know it.
Yeah.
Better or worse, he is the man who created professional wrestling, as we know it.
As we know it. Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that.
And I mean, that should have been enough for him. The problem with Vince was he was never happy with that. He wanted to be known for other things. You know, it's kind of like Chris Jericho. Him and Chris Jericho are very similar. You know, Chris Jericho is one of the best wrestlers who's ever lived. Wants to be known as other things than just a wrestler. Vince was the man.
He's got this illustrious, like unbelievable, like all-time
great
wrestling career. And he keeps sending people to listen to his terrible Fozzy albums.
Yeah, oh my God, they just get worse, don't they? They really do. I remember, I'm still blocked, by the way, by Fozzy the band because I gave them a bad review one time, and I mean, it wasn't even that bad of a review. The review was when the best thing on your album is an ABBA cover. You know, you're doing it the wrong way.
Well, look, I absolutely love Chris Jericho. He's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers.
I wish his band would unblock me.
And I'd even say his entrance theme, what is it? Judas. Yeah. Absolute banger. Like even a stopped clock gives the right time twice a day. Absolute banger. But Fozzy was in Belfast, like literally 10 minutes down the road from me twice in the past year, and I didn't go see them. You know?
I mean, I've seen them. They were playing in a local dive bar, and I'm like, it looked like a local dive bar with Chris Jericho in it, you know. And it's just like, hey man, I appreciate the graft, but I'm also like, why?
I wonder when he's in like Fozzy mode, is he a bit like Kip Sabian? So apparently Kip Sabian, whenever he's on his Twitch is for gaming, and he has a thing on his Twitch that says, "This is not a wrestling Twitch. We don't talk about wrestling." You know. So I wonder is Chris like that when he's in Fozzy mode?
It's just one of those things when you're when you're sitting there and you're like watching Chris Jericho wrestle, and it is like Vince, you know. And I think that's why they kind of got on so well, and why they had that understanding if you read the books. But I mean, Vince, he tried bodybuilding, tried movies, music.
Do you know what? Before you say the next thing, but I was just about to say, before you say that, do you know what I watched recently on? I think it's on Disney Plus, actually. Weirdly, a documentary on the rise and fall of the XFL. It was pretty good. I mean, I knew most of it, and it was given not it wasn't as skewed as, like, whenever WWE does a documentary and something, and it's a load of bullshit. Like, it's the kayfabe WWE version of what happened. It definitely wasn't like that. It was maybe a wee bit kinder than a totally impartial documentary would be, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. But my girlfriend, who knows nothing about XFL, never heard of it before, or didn't know anything about this, she thought it was fascinating.
Well, I mean, it is. It is.
Yeah. Like, maybe it's just because I'm, a jaded wrestling smark who thinks he knows everything.
That's the thing. It's but that alone, having that background and having that wealth, I mean, it does kind of lead that. Oh, got to turn my volume up. Thanks, Dave. Is that better?
Thanks, Dave.
I mean, having that.
Is that our Dave, or is there a Dave on the chat?
That's
good man, Dave.
He's on the Wrestling Rewind channel. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, Dave, we miss you. Hashtag the enslaved Dave.
Skype in, Dave. We're on Skype.
Because it's 2009.
Yeah, I mean, we're a wrestling podcast. We're gonna have to. I mean, if he wants to call in, he totally can. But I mean, the thing about it is, when Vince did all this, it kind of raised the profile of WWE even more so. We start getting the mainstream crossovers, for better or worse. Like, even with The Rock being the biggest movie star in the world right now, he was a wrestler. I mean, not a lot of it was successful, but it was kind of groundbreaking, and it was kind of what you see now. I mean,
it just. Sorry, go on ahead. Yeah.
Dave says, well, that's much better. Be back soon. We hope you are, Dave. We miss you. Hashtag say Dave.
It's got to go change the nappy, change the diapper. Sorry.
Dave sends his love. But look, I mean, the main thing here is, like, when you say wrestling, people know Vince McMahon. They know Vince McMahon, they know Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they know The Undertaker. And they might know one or two others, and they know The Rock. Maybe. More so
than all of them, and probably his greatest achievement ever was, when you say wrestling, they know WrestleMania, and not only do they know WWE, people nowadays who aren't wrestling fans say WWE instead of pro wrestling. Yeah. So he did an incredible job, like, in terms of making his brand. And, like, talking about legacy, I mean, one of the things we can't overlook, like, and I'm one of Vince's harshest critics, WrestleMania, an unbelievable gamble that he took that paid off, not just, like, financially, that, like you were saying earlier, completely changed wrestling as a business, basically made it what we love today. And set up the model for the next 3 or 4 decades of pay-per-views, and then syndicated weekly shows that were across multiple territories, and then national, and then to the stage where we have it now, where it's a global phenomenon.
Here's another one, though. Here's another one as well, which actually isn't mentioned that much. And I remember myself and Dave, we were talking about this, or if it wasn't Dave, it was prior to... Actually, no, probably wasn't, because we weren't doing the rewind then. It was on The Rest of You International Desk. And it was a show before we did this one. And we were talking about the network.
I get jealous when you say you had a show before this one.
I'm sorry, Brian. Don't worry.
you slut.
You pussy.
You wrestle slut.
How dare you? That's probably a website. Do not Google that, folks, if you're listening to us on Phoenix. More than likely a website. Rule 34, of course. But here's the thing. So I remember talking about this with either Gary or Bryn, and the idea of a wrestling streaming service.
Yeah, I know that.
It's never done. And it sounded crazy and kind of stupid because it was so ahead of its time. Like, I mean, look, it really was ahead of its time. Like, legitimately, it really was.
Oh, yeah.
This was before everyone had a streaming service for everything. This was before, you know, it's before, like, literally, it's before, it's when Netflix was dominating the world. It was just, everyone just had Netflix.
Yeah.
And then Vince is like, I'm going to do my own wrestling service. You know, like, that's kind of stupid, but also not really.
It was when they were charging people, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60 a month to watch pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And then suddenly change that to $9.99. That's I mean, you got to balance that between, you know, some pay-per-views like WrestleMania are going to get hundreds of thousands of buys, and some pay-per-views like, you know, Great Balls of Fire are going to get 15.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about it is as well, it's like when you're, at the time, one of the big talking points was, geez, they're giving up all that money. But also, you know, people aren't going to watch it on their computer. Because, I mean, the app wasn't even there. The stream wasn't great, but as well, as I'm sure you know, being a wrestling fan, you know, you find streams, right?
You live on the fringes of legality.
Yeah, like Justin.tv before Twitch, we all remember it, right? Shout out to Justin.tv. If you guys remember that, which that was Twitch. You know, it's just, we can't forget that either. Like, Vince was always ahead of the time. Like, even in XFL, he pioneered the camera that the NFL use now.
Loads. There's actually
The replay as well.
There was,
you know, that too.
Yeah, and there was 2 iterations of the XFL. Now the second one kind of was actually doing okay, and then it was hit with COVID, and that's what killed it. But yeah, the first iteration of the XFL, the NFL took loads. Like, the camera was the big thing, but the NFL actually took loads from it, loads of stuff. So, like, there's no, like, we'll and I'm sure we'll get to it, like, maybe the morality of different things he's done over the years, but there's no question that he is an absolute genius when it comes to marketing, when it comes to putting on a show. Yeah, like, he's definitely one of a kind, which is the problem now that he's gone. He was one of a kind.
He was. You know, he was. And it's like, I know we're talking about him like he's dead. He's not dead.
No, but I mean, for the purpose of wrestling fans, might as well be.
It's hard to believe. It really is. You know, it really is. I just keep looking at this market watch, and it's funny because that stock is up 60.62%.
Well,
that's going to fall through the floor.
Well, this is something we discussed previously. Like, and again, this is another one of my conspiracy theories. But we talked on a previous show about Nick Khan coming in and kind of inserting himself into what had previously been a family-run thing, and getting himself into a position where he was actually, in terms of real power, almost as powerful as Vince.
Yeah.
And you have this board now where there's only 2 or 3 people on the board who are wrestling people, and the rest of them, the other dozen or so, they're not wrestling people. They don't care about wrestling. They don't care about the business. They don't care about any of that. They have invested in a multi-billion-dollar company, and that's what they care about.
Well, okay, here's a quote from Market Watch. News of Vince McMahon's departure sent ripples through the industry, convinced that the icon they called Vince and Mr. McMahon would leave only on his terms. Quote, I'm shocked, but I think this is clearly to do with the recent allegations. Never thought he'd do it. Brian Alvarez, a former wrestler and author of the best-selling WCW radio podcast host on Wrestling Observer newsletter. Quote, I would think it would be difficult. I would think it would be very, very difficult for WWE to negotiate their live fees for TV shows, Raw, SmackDown, with Vince hovering in the background. Brian Thurston, an editor of WrestleNomics, told Market Watch. Vincent K. McMahon purchased the parent company of then World Wrestling Federation from his father, Vincent J. McMahon, in 1982. Started an overhaul organisation that reshaped the industry. Mr. McMahon immediately moved to the WWF programming syndication, television nationwide, and used the revenue generated by TV deals, advertising, and tape sales to land talent wrestlers such as Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and Andre the Giant from Rival Promotions. Here's the interesting part. In October 1999, the initial public offering was $17. The stock now is at $66. So I mean that's pretty healthy, to be fair. It's pretty healthy.
Oh yeah, I mean financially, there's no question. They're doing better than they've ever done. Like, it doesn't seem like it because you think about Hogan and the golden era, 93,000 people in the Silverdome. You think about Rock and Austin. The Austin 316 T-shirt becoming like crossing over in the mainstream. But no, what the money they're making now dwarfs any of that.
It does. No, it really does. And when I think this is all said and done, it will be interesting to see where the stock lands. But I definitely... this is the page I'd be watching. I'd be watching Market Watch. I wouldn't really be looking at wrestling pages because, I mean, they don't really know. They kind of just go off that. Like, the only person that would know here is probably Brian Alvarez. Right? Legitimately. But that really says it all. This is what you want to look at. This right here, because they don't do this for no reason. They don't just announce this. And again, once I saw... Like, again, the day is weird, but it makes sense, so they can't nuke the stock. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're protecting. That's the whole point. WWE is not a private company anymore. That's what people need to understand. That's the difference between something like an AEW or an Impact or, even WWE back in the day that we make fun of. They can do what they want because it doesn't matter.
But that's kind of the point I was making when I was talking about the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if the stock doesn't actually fall, because the kind of mad theory I'd had was that Vince has run this like a fiefdom all his life, and now you have this board of people who are not wrestling people, and they see like massive opportunity for a huge payout if they sell, but Vince McMahon won't sell. And I genuinely look, maybe it's an outside shot, but I genuinely think that there's a chance that members of the board, maybe Nick Khan, was behind this
the leak?
these stories coming out.
No way.
As a way of getting
conspiracy theory.
Genuinely, as a way of getting rid of
okay.
Vince so that they could sell, because the new Vince would never sell.
Do you honestly?
Look, it's I wouldn't go out there and say that that's what happened, but it's something
theory.
that percolates a lot in my mind.
What's weird about this whole thing is the timing. I mean, everybody knew this is what was going on. Not to this extent, but it's the least surprising thing in the world, right? Why did it take so long? That's the bit I'm like, what happened? Like, how did you get to this point? And that's what I'm thinking. So it's just such a weird thing. And I mean, if that is the case, you can never prove it, but it is something to really think about. Dave chimed in here. So interesting to see how the crowd is going to be during SmackDown in an hour. Plus, if they're going to announce it, or what would they do? Dave, that's what we were saying at the beginning of the show. Like, you have to announce it, right? You have to talk about it. There's no way they can't.
What if Vince comes out? I might watch SmackDown for the first time in years.
If Vince comes out and cuts a promo, I'm not leaving, damn it. It would be.
They're gonna need the SWAT team to get me out of here.
I think he cut that promo before, but I mean, I kind of want that to happen. I kind of want this to be an angle because it just work everybody. It'd be the best angle of all time. But here's the thing: if he comes out, he has to retire on camera. There's no way he's not going to come out.
Well, here's the thing: the only way he's not coming out is if this was done because something really bad is coming out.
Yeah, well, mate, here's the thing: it hasn't come out yet. He could still get that one last.
No, but then you have that. Like, then the story, whenever it does come out in a day or a week, is Vince McMahon knew this was coming out and walked out in WWE and got his. Oh, I think it would be very grimy. And it's certainly not something the new owners or the new CEOs would want.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point too.
So it would.
You think he just goes off into the sunset and that's it?
Well, but I don't know, because we don't know what has prompted this. But the only thing either of us can say with any certainty is that if Vince McMahon was retiring, which I don't think he'd do anyway, but if he was retiring entirely on his own terms, I don't think he'd do it in a tweet 2 hours before SmackDown.
It's a very weird way to do it. I mean, that's the thing. Again, when Dave put that in our group chat, I thought it was a joke. It's not the way I envisioned Vince McMahon going out of wrestling.
No. WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Come out and stand in the ring and announce to the crowd and be bathed in the claps and cheers and tears of 100,000 fans, or something at the Hall of Fame, surrounded by the wrestlers that he's built his empire with. So, but a tweet
or dying at Gorilla,
or dying.
That's honest. That's exactly. Yeah. That's also all joking aside. Yeah. That was
which he almost did once when Brock came out in through the curtain and fired the belt at him.
I mean, that was more probable than anything else for such a long time, and now he's that's it. But no, I mean, look, it's your guess. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what's going to happen. I probably am going to stay up and watch SmackDown purely because to see how they're going to cover this. They have to. Here's another thing as well. So Vince is gone, right?
Yeah.
The Forbidden Door. Does it stay closed? No, legitimately. Do you think so?
Yeah.
Really? Why?
So again, Vince is gone, but look at the people who have been put in place.
Yeah, but Triple H isn't like that.
But Triple H isn't the CEO, and Triple H isn't the board. He needs to have a CEO in a pole match.
Where it's him versus Nick Khan. And remember, Triple H is going in with a bad heart, so that could be part of the story. I should book this. He has a bad heart, and he's like, "I'll fight you one more time." For the.
But Triple H's problem is that he's outnumbered. He's a wrestling guy.
That's what a sledgehammer's for.
Yeah, but he keeps putting his hand over the end of it before he hits people.
Well, he's pedigree. He'll be grand, I mean,
if he'd get in and swing it like a hatchet for once, he'd actually do some
one
damage.
Time and he smashed the stage or something. That was a good crack.
The only time a sledgehammer was ever actually swung like a sledgehammer in wrestling was when Cody Rhodes swung it at Triple H's throne.
To be fair, no, there was one time when he did it in 1999 in the Buried Alive match, the 6-man Buried Alive match.
Was this when? I also like the one he did when Undertaker got him up for the last raid, and he kind of swung down. That was pretty.
That was at WrestleMania X7. That was
pretty cool.
Which, Dave, you haven't seen yet, so you need to come back on the show so we can watch good wrestling.
Once we get through WCW, Dave,
we're going into 2000 and 2001, and it's going to be a great time. But look, as I said, man, we didn't plan to stream today, so thank you to everybody who joined us on the stream. Again, this is your first time checking out the channel, please do subscribe, like, leave comments. Nerd to Know Media is where you can get all the shows. TheWrestlingRewind.com is where you can get all of our shows, including the 2 YouTube channels. And do let us know what you think on this. And
before we go, Dara, you normally end with have you got it in the plug? Have you got it in the blah blah blah? Instead, this time, why don't you give us in one sentence what you think Vince McMahon's legacy would be?
I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. One sentence, I mean, Vince McMahon is the man who made modern wrestling and whose legacy will always be he thought bigger than professional wrestling and put it on the map for what it was.
I think mine would be almost the same. I think Vince McMahon is the man who made and subsequently ruined modern wrestling.
But here's the thing: there would be no Hulkamania. There'd be no WrestleMania. There'd be no AEW. There'd be no Impact. There'd be no WCW. There'd be no NWO. There'd be no DX. There'd be no.
Well,
nothing.
there'd be WCW. WCW was there.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be WCW.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Know what I mean? Like, dude, we were watching 2001 WCW, and they're just stealing bad WWE gimmicks.
It's just
they're just stealing cast-offs from WWE.
It's kind of fascinating to watch a corporation, like an organization, panic.
Yeah. And here's the thing: it's like we're kind of seeing something similar Oh, whoa. It's like 21 years later. The same thing happening, but a mature company dealing with it. Been like, all right, come on now, we need to get rid of it. Instead of like, oh, we're not hiring Vince Russo. We hired Vince Russo. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? It's I've been here doing the whole wrestling journalist thing, and I've seen companies panic. Impact, Ring of Honor. This reaction is very interesting with WWE, where you're like, okay, they're actually removing Vince and they're letting him go on his own terms. SmackDown, I'll end on this way. What happens tonight on SmackDown will kind of dictate the future of WWE. What I mean by that is, if they come out and they recognize Vince McMahon as what he was, that says, right, he's never coming back on TV again. And something massive's coming, but they have to close that chapter. If he comes out like a conquering hero, things aren't changing, but I do think the other shoe is going to drop. What that is, I have no idea. I
think Vince McMahon's music is going to play it tonight, and out will walk Eric Bischoff. And he'll say, Vince, I told you I'd win in the end.
Oh my God. Or Vince's music hits. Oh, I'm a McMahon, all right. Shane McMahon.
There goes my money.
As I said, whichever one happens, it will kind of be interesting to see. I do expect some sort of video package from WWE. Some announcement. That has to be. There's no way they're just ignoring this. They literally cannot do it.
Do you think the video package is something that they'll have to have like hurriedly put together in the past hour?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's like news stations that have like with old or ill celebrities, they have like the video package pre-made, just ready to go whenever it happens?
Probably a bit from both, actually. They probably had this going from when the allegations came out. But the actual finalised one... Now, I mean, what would be in it would be pretty interesting. Like, I mean, they're obviously not going to show some of the horrendous stuff that we will see when we cover 2000 and 2001 WWE. They'll probably, I don't think they'll have Vince McMahon with the ECW title.
Hashtag Trish Stratus.
Yeah, I mean, again, these allegations are not shocking. I lived through Trish Stratus's, treatment when she was there. But, I mean, I don't think you'll see Vince McMahon with the ECW title. I don't think you'll see the Kiss My Ass Club.
I think what you'll get is sort of in memoriam Vince McMahon, sort of 1981 to 2022, emblazoned across a picture of The Rock pushing his face into Rikishi's arse.
But no, I mean, I think they will kind of do the classic Vince McMahon thing. Now, here's the thing, and to close this out. So they were doing a documentary, A&E, I think, were doing a documentary on Vince McMahon. They should go back and do that documentary, because, I mean, now we are going to really start to see some serious you-know-what. But again, this is a breaking story, the biggest wrestling story in history, folks. We had to come on and do a quick stream. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for Dave for jumping on. He'll be back soon. Hashtag save Dave. Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we end tonight?
No, just here on the ground on Titan Towers has collapsed. The tower has collapsed.
Oh, jeez. But look, we'll be back. Again, if this is your first time, please do like, subscribe. Thank you to Phoenix 92.5 FM, the True Penny channel. Again, go over to thewrestlingrewind.com where you'll be able to find all of our shows, a link to everything. And yeah, so we'll be back after this break for next week. I don't know what we're covering. It's SummerSlam, right?
Yeah, we'll do a kind of a SummerSlam, maybe if we look at ROH as well, and we're only 2 pay-per-views from the end of WCW, so then
we're Super Brawl and then Greed,
and then that's it. What a wonderful premonition that Greed was their last pay-per-view.
They knew what was coming. But folks, again, thank you so much, and we will see you here on the next Wrestling Rewind. Bye guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.